So pretty quick.
Yeah, pretty quick.
Yeah.
No, actually, it was Tuesday.
Oh.
But that's kind of how your team is. They go to the hauler and they're all pissy, and then it goes great.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to figure out a way to put it behind you. You have conversations with people you feel like you need to have conversations with, and then you turn around and focus on next week. So obviously, a big week coming up. The next 10 races are very important, and just got to turn your focus. So we talked about what we needed to and moved on.
Well, Donald said he talked to you and tried to allay your fears that something of that nature wouldn't happen in the future. With something as large as a championship online, I mean, I'm not taking away from it just being a race
Sure.
But with the championship on the line, what needs to be done between now and Homestead?
For us or
For officiating, to make sure that, the guy that deserves to win ends up hoisting the Monster Cup?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part of the season, they've been consistent and not, jumping on every hot dog wrapper for a caution and those type of things like, we've seen maybe in years past. I thought Saturday night at Richmond was a departure from what we've seen really the last 5 or 6 months. So really, that's really what I wanted to talk to, Steve about was, why did they throw the caution? And, from what I could see, there was no real reason. And so, somebody just jumped the gun on that one. It would be tough to, Dale Jr.'s tweet this week about Carl Edwards and his championship going away last year for a caution. It's hard not to think about that, If we're in that same situation at Homestead and that happens, what happened to us Saturday night, that would be really, really hard to take. So they just need to make sure they're consistent and make the right call when the pressure's on. I mean, that's their job. That's what they have to do. If there's a real reason for a caution, then nobody can say anything about it. Yes, that should have been a caution. So just do the right thing and make the right call at the right time.
Was your issue consistency, or was it that you didn't think it was?
My issue was there was no legitimate reason for a caution. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't matter if it's happened before or not. I mean, for me, I just felt like there was no reason for a caution at all.
We got an explanation outside the hauler. We got a better explanation on the air with Steve O'Donnell. Did you get an explanation that you felt was satisfying on your concerns about moving forward?
Well, I heard what I wanted to hear. It did not change anything. So, don't just tell me, show me. I'd like to see it play out the right way. And, the biggest problem I had was, every year it's the driver's meeting. Let it play out naturally. We don't want anybody screwing with the race, and then, they make the wrong call. So it's frustrating. But, again, show me. We'll see what happens.
Did you tell him that?
Yeah.
Do you have confidence in race control over the next 10 weeks, given what you just said?
Ask me in 10 weeks.
With what happened at Richmond and then Darlington got away, obviously that was a little bit different with the tire, but when looking at the bonus points that you lost the last 2 weeks, do you go into the playoffs now more motivated to get back on a tear, or are you a little worried that things might be going downhill now?
Certainly the last 4 laps of the last 2 races have been tough, but at the same time I think that we've had just a really, really strong season. Certainly would love to have 10 extra points on top of what we have already, but I'm proud of what we've done. I mean, the stage wins especially, it's amazing to see the laps we led and the stages we won. Certainly a few races that got away, the last 2 stick out most. But I think that, I think we'll be okay. I think, it's certainly not going to hurt our momentum or our confidence the way the last 2 finished out. And sometimes circumstances in racing you can't control happen. And that's just the way it goes. So I think we're in good shape. We'll just have to see how it all plays out.
So Kevin Harvick said that he was concerned about the ambulances not finding their way to the care center, like getting lost on the way to the care center and not quite knowing where to go.
Yeah.
Is that something you've experienced, or you understand what he's talking about?
Yeah, I mean, if you were in bad shape or you were hurt or something was going on and it was, bad timing it could be rough. I mean, I had the same issue last week at Richmond. I think we were like stuck in traffic or something trying to get there, and we sat there for 5 minutes. I'm like, guys, we need to get going here, So there's some things we need to look at behind the scenes like that. It certainly, if you were in bad shape, it'd be very crucial to get there in quick time. And, sometimes the ambulances don't get to us quick enough as well. Those are all issues that need to be addressed, and I don't know who's in charge of all that or who should address it, but all those little things we need to clean up now.
Would you speak up, because now with the driver council and with the way you guys report, there is supposedly more of a, you said you didn't know who to address it with. Wouldn't you be concerned enough to say something?
Yeah, but the lines of communication are not clear. The drivers council, I don't know 90% of what goes on in those meetings. I don't know what they talk about. I've never had real interaction about what they talk about. So I think that's just something else we have to work on going forward. It's the first year for that, I guess. So there's going to be some kinks in it, I suppose.
Are you an advocate of a traveling safety crew?
Yes, I think it'd be a good thing for us. I don't know what we need to do to make it happen or why they haven't done it. It seems like the NHRA and IndyCar are the guys that have those crews that travel each week. They seem to just work really efficiently. They get to the drivers quick. And all the drivers in the series are they speak very highly of the programs and how they all work. So definitely worth a look. I know I've heard some of the reasons that they don't do it. So I don't know really how that all plays out.
Did Sherry try to tell you to smile?
Title favorite? Is there a title favorite?
I don't know. I mean, with the way the system is set up, I don't know that you can have a favorite. Honestly, I mean, it's this has got to be the toughest championship in sports to win, without a question. With the eliminations, with one race for the championship at the end, especially. You're not out there one-on-one. You're out there, there's 39 other cars, and you're racing against 3 of them. So yeah, I mean, it's got to be the toughest one there is. I don't really know if you can have a favorite.
Did Sherry try to tell you to smile for any of those photos, or did she even know better not to? Because it's so funny to look at. You're there with a huge scowl, and everybody else is just smiling.
So great.
It's passion.
Yeah.
You didn't think about it.
She didn't. No, she didn't tell me to smile, but she was like, I think she was inside as mad as I was and didn't really want to take pictures.
She's competitive
It
too.
was tough. She's very competitive.
Martin, are you concerned about another late race caution in the playoffs?
If it comes at the wrong time, I am.
Okay, at Homestead from 2007 to 13, there was never a caution in the last 10 laps. Since they adopted the playoff format, the last 3 years, there has been in the last 9 laps. All 3 years, 2 of them for debris. Is there too much emphasis on creating drama at the
Yes.
end of the race?
Yes, there is. Hopefully, that won't happen again.
Martin, at Richmond, the car that hit the wall was several laps down, and at that point,
16.
Yes, they could not, and was not close enough to get another position.
Yeah.
So the question is, should that car have been out there? Should NASCAR, as it has a minimum speed, should it start looking at forcing teams off the track late in the race, and how would you determine that should be done?
I had that exact conversation with Steve O'Donnell this week, and thought that we needed to up minimum speed for cars that were not in an accident, that didn't get on the 5-minute clock for crash damage. For that very reason, we don't want to go to Homestead and have a car that's 25 laps down, scrape the wall or blow a tire, and change the outcome of possibly a championship or who the champion is. So I think it's definitely something that they're willing to look into. I think it makes sense. Again, we'll just see how it all plays out.
So from the start of the race, raise the minimum, or would you raise it for particular? How would you?
I think I would say that minimum speed right now is probably too far off.
Okay.
From where we run. And you have to be way off the pace to go 16 or 20 laps down under green at a short track. 400 lap race. Losing a couple laps is one thing, but 15 plus probably don't need to be out there.
Where would you draw the line? I mean, where is the line? There's always...
Well, there's a percentage, right? So they take, the fastest, what they expect to be somewhat the fastest speeds, they take a percentage off of that. And that's how they judge their minimum speed. I just think there's too much of a gap in there.
As good as you've been all year, do you feel like there's still room for improvement on the 78 team? And do you expect that you're going to have to improve to win the championship?
I think there's always room for improvement. I think there's always things you can do better, driving wise, setup wise, car building the cars. I mean, we're always picking everything apart, every part and piece, pit stops, pit road speeds, I mean, you name it, we look at it. So, yeah, I mean, certainly there's always room for improvement. With that said, I think we've been consistently one of the best cars all year, and we'll need to continue that. And to do that, we'll need to find some more. Everybody's looking hard. Everybody's working on their stuff. Everybody's doing everything they can to step it up in these next 10 races, and we'll need to do the same to keep up.
Yeah, I just want to follow up with one thing. Should that be changed, the minimum speed, just for the playoffs or for all the races?
I don't know. That's a good question. I thought maybe for the whole season makes sense, just because we need to keep that consistency, you know. And I do feel like it's just there's too much of a gap in there. And certainly, you know, some tracks where the tires wear out a lot, it's going to be different than places where it doesn't. It's just something I think needs to be addressed. It seems like it's for quite a while now we've had, you know, a few cars here and there that are just so far off the pace you don't even know where they're going to go when you get to the corner. So it's not a huge issue, but I think it's something that we need to look at.
Cole said he was all for doing inspection, you know, pre-race inspection that would hold out throughout the case of the event. That way, if you did hit the wall, something was off kilter or something along those lines, that it wouldn't affect the outcome of the race. Do you think that they need to be more, you know, thorough with the pre-race and just kind of leave it at that? And is that not? Do you think that should be an option?
It would be nice. I mean, it'd be great for everybody to know the winner and not have to find out on Tuesday if encumbered wins and all that stuff. It's kind of confusing to the fans, and I think people get kind of upset about it. But at the same time, I don't know if you look at inspection times now and how long all those cars are in line, and you know, they get in line 4 hours before the race or something, and sometimes they barely make it out on the grid now. I just don't see how they're going to be able to be thorough enough to catch those kind of things that they're finding at the R&D center. So I don't know. It just depends. I think if they do that, they're going to have to open the rules up some. You know, they can't keep all the rules that they have in place now and be able to do it before the race. They'll have to open it up. They'll have to let some things stop looking in certain areas, and you know, who is it up to what those areas are? That's the big question. You know, every team's going to have a different area they want to go away, you know. So it's a complicated issue, and it's not as clear cut and as simple as everybody thinks it is. So I don't really know what the answer is for that. It would be nice if we could know who the winner is and whether they were legal or not when we left the racetrack on Sunday night or Saturday night for everyone. But it's a very, very complicated issue.
Shouldn't the regular season champion be on the driver council?
Well, I wasn't the regular season champion last year, so I don't know. I actually don't even know the criteria for I think it's the top driver from every manufacturer, and then I'm not sure what else, past champion, I guess, but I don't know, maybe we'll be on it next year.
Martin, does the points gap you have help you most in the early rounds or the later rounds?
I really don't know. I would say it potentially could help you in any of them, just depending on how things went. I mean, you know, you look at it as, you know, okay, if we had 2 bad races and needed to lean on some of those points, it would matter who won the other races in that round. It would matter where the other guys, it would matter where, you know, Larson's only 20 behind. Did he have a really good round or a bad one? So I think it depends on who you're racing against, who you're maybe on that line of the cutoff against, and how many points they have. It's just too early to tell how all this stuff's going to play out. Our goal is to not have to use any of those bonus points right now. Obviously, we want to just get through there and have them in case something bad happens. If we perform at the level we can and we're capable of, I don't think we'll need them. But this is racing and a lot can happen, you never know. So definitely nice to have them in your pocket. How effective they'll be, I guess nobody really knows yet.
How often? You mentioned earlier that you don't think there's really a favorite going in, but I feel like you and Kyle Larson are definitely at the top of the game right now. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship with him, and do you see him as your closest competitor right now?
Relationship, I mean, I don't know him very well other than on the racetrack and around the track. I He's very talented behind the wheel. I love racing with him. I think we approach racing the same way. We drive similar, I would say, believe it or not. And yeah, I mean, I expect to be racing him for the next 10 races because he's been fast everywhere. He's got a great team. I love his crew chief to death, and actually seen him the other night. He's my neighbor, so. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be fun. You certainly, you can't pick a favorite for the championship because of the format, but I think the guys that are favored based on speed and the way the season has went, he's obviously one of them. You know, him and Kyle, and I think him and Kyle Busch are probably the two that I'm most concerned with, just because of the speed they've had. But again, you never know who's going to step up and find that speed and come out of nowhere. So you got to keep your eyes open and really just focus on your strengths and what you've done all year, and that's what we're going to do.
You said he's your neighbor. You like all over the fence at each other?
Across the street neighbor.
Okay,
so,
across
yeah,
the street.
Yeah.
You guys ever like do anything? You said you don't know about see each other around?
Oh, I was talking about his crew chief, Chad.
I know.
I know him very well. He was my crew chief for a while.
Yeah, no. But do you ever see Kyle over there with them? Or?
I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't actually.
When you guys are so intense, which I love, the practices, qualified, is there a chance running in a very competitive playoff that you guys could burn yourselves out, or you're so used to operating that way that you won't because you are always that way? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that for us it's 10 more races. Certainly there's a lot more on the line. The repercussions for mistakes or decisions are obviously a bigger deal, but we're not going to race any different. We didn't last year, we didn't the year before. I don't know, maybe that's not the right approach, but I think it's just the way we do it because we know who we are, we know how we race, and we know what's got us here. And just personally, I feel like that's the only way you can go race the playoffs is do what you know how to do. I think if you try to change who you are, you just end up making mistakes and getting out of your rhythm and doing things that you wouldn't normally do and put you in a bad spot. So, certainly last year it didn't work out for us. But I think that's just part of racing more than a strategy.
You talk about the speed. You say you never know who's going to come up with speed. Last year, you saw the Hendrick cars, 24-48, come out of the gate fast after such a mediocre summer.
Yeah.
Is that kind of put them on your radar, or it seems like that's kind of the Jimmy Mole model? But I mean, how many more years can you keep doing the same thing like that?
I think it's definitely a dangerous approach if it's done on purpose. I don't know that it's been done on purpose, but yeah, I mean, it's been amazing just to see how they can come out and change and look like a completely different team with 10 races to go, and just all of a sudden, like, well, where did he come from? I mean, everybody's seen it. We've seen it plenty of times. So I don't think our guard is down when it comes to any team, let alone them. You have to look at them, what they've done, and know that they're going to be around and they're going to be tough.
With the last 2 years that your team has had compared with like the first 10 years of your career, do you think you'll ever get used to this level of competition and the possibilities of you winning, or have the last 2 years just kind of felt surreal for you?
I'd say it's a little bit of both. At times it's felt surreal and it's felt like, how did this all happen? And then at the same time, it's like, okay, we've worked really, really hard to get here. I had flashes of this throughout my career that we could do it. Just everything never lined up, and stayed lined up long enough to gain that momentum and just that consistency. So I'm definitely not surprised by it, by how the last 2 years have went. But at the same time, I'm still very just appreciative and thankful for the opportunities, and know that it's a special team we have and it's a special thing we're doing. And I don't take it for granted one day at all.
Do you feel like because of that past experience you have an edge over some of the younger guys like Larson, who obviously is very strong this year but maybe hasn't been under this kind of pressure situation before?
I don't know. I think we emphasize pressure too much when it comes to drivers, because I think that for us, our entire racing career, I think we approach racing the same way. We had pressure when we raced on Saturday night because we wanted to win. We have pressure now because we want to win. So it doesn't change, I don't think, for us as much as it does maybe for the teams and the guys that haven't been in those situations, that you have to make the calls on Saturday night on what they're going to put in their race car and have that confidence in it. If they're, if they have to make changes, calling the race, pitch strategy, those kind of things, I think those are bigger situations where you might change your outlook or your calls based on pressure. So I think on the driver's side of it, I don't think it's as big a change as people lead it out to believe.
Thanks, Martin. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks, guys.